Hi, and welcome to this podcast with me, Geeta Joshi. I'm a curator and art dealer and the producer for Camberwell Arts Open Studios. And today I'm here with Rachel Gluyas from Dulwich Festival Artist Open House.
Hi Geeta, nice to see you.
Thanks so much for coming in. So we both have pretty similar roles within organising open studios, so that's why I'm really excited to be with you here today. But give us some background. How did you get into the role?
So Geeta, I got into the role by accident really. It was like a lot of things in life, a chat at the school gates. Another mum was organising an Artist Open House event for the Dulwich Festival back in 2005. So there had been other artist events as part of the festival, which actually is coming up for its 25th year this year, which is amazing, very exciting. But in its current incarnation, really, that was the first one back in 2005. And the organiser then, Janet Whittaker, who is a practising artist herself, handed it on to me at the end of her stint, and it's gone from there really. It's grown from about 25 artists maybe up to well over 250.
Yeah, so it's really big, and that's why I really sort of look to Dulwich, you guys as like this sort of benchmark of how to do things. I think you do sterling work, and your publicity is all sort of beautifully branded, and it's really visible everywhere. But how has that changed in the time you've been doing it? Because I'm guessing it wasn't like that right at the beginning. So.
Well, Geeta, that's very kind. And it has really changed over the years. And when I started working on it at the end of 2005, producing the 2006 Artist Open House, astonishingly, there was very few people were on email. So it was actually a matter of typing letters and pushing them through doors and following up artists on paper.
And is that like you were putting letters through doors of people that knew were artists sort of through network and word of mouth and things?
People who I knew were artists who had already taken part, who had a connection to the festival, some of whom had got in touch with me. I mean, some artists were on email, but amazingly few, and no one had websites in those days. So it was although the event grew quite quickly, it was a much slower growth than you would expect now with the internet and the way we all use our laptops. So there was quite a lot of just on foot, walking around, talking to artists, going into studios, knocking on doors, going into galleries, and a lot of word of mouth as well.
And then in terms of geography, because that must have grown as well, because it is called Dulwich Festival or Dulwich Artists Open House, but it does span all the way from Sydenham up to Camberwell, so...
It does. I mean, it looks like a big area. The radius is about 2.5 miles outside Dulwich Village. It grew because, although at the very start it was a relatively small number of artists showing mainly closer to Dulwich Village, it grew into East Dulwich, and then other artists heard about it and wanted to take part. But obviously there were, it was a lot fewer artists then. So we haven't hugely grown the footprint. Over the years, of course, but over the last 10 years, it's kind of remained about the same sort of footprint. In fact, the footprint's got slightly smaller because we did go into Nunhead and Brockley, but it did become geographically too big.
So it's just that you've got actually more artists within that sort of geography.
Exactly.
Great. So what is different, or how are you coping with having more and more people sort of join each year?
Well, the numbers are fairly static and have been now for the last few years.
Right.
Maybe there were a few more last year, actually. I mean, obviously, email and internet, websites, and social media, all of that makes it easier to reach out to people.
Yeah, definitely.
And tell them, what you're doing. In the early days, people had to hand write a form to fill in, and now, of course, that's done with an online link. So that's much easier,
so much easier, isn't it?
Much more efficient, much quicker. So it's much easier to contact large groups of people, of course, than it was.
And do you do your call out on social media as well, or just through your mailing list?
It's mainly through the mailing list. We are also throughout the year we're approached by artists who know about the event, and I think that's the other thing about it. It's been going for, this will be my 13th event for the festival this year, and it's become known. People look out for the event, they know it's happening, and it's become quite well established, and that is hugely helpful. Whereas in the early days, people didn't really fully understand what it wasn't in their diaries, whereas it is now, so that makes it much easier to...
So I think you must be getting, like we have it as well, where you know, people will come and visit and then they'll think, well, this is really nice, or they'll, you know, show with their friends who are sort of within that sort of catchment area and things as well, right?
Exactly. So I think it's something that artists, they know it's going to happen, they can be more prepared. But I think, you know, one group of people it's really important to mention are the visitors, and they remember it too and look out for it. You know, we sort of feel it's the start of, you know, spring when those booklets go out and people start getting interested.
Nice.
So yeah
it is actually. I mean, we always look out for those brochures, and they're getting, you know, yours certainly is getting heftier and heftier each year, isn't it? So you get more and more people on board. So what do you find with the artists, like when they're showing from home? Because while you have people that are showing from actual studios, which is like multiple occupancy units and things like that, what do you think works when artists are showing from home?
I would say the majority of our artists are people who are showing from their own homes, which is really interesting and appealing for visitors because they're getting a chance to go behind normally closed doors into private domestic spaces often, which is a lovely way to see art, because obviously when you buy a piece of art, you're taking it home to your own home if you're lucky enough to do that. So it can be less intimidating sometimes than a gallery space, but it brings with it other challenges, of course. Artists have got to be happy to let strangers into their homes. And likewise, visitors have got to feel okay knocking on a door of a private home. And there's a huge variety of types of home, and also the work on show and the personalities presenting that work. So, you know, it can be quite difficult for people to do that. Artists are laying themselves bare with their work anyway, so to welcome people into their private space, you know, it's a huge privilege for visitors to be able to do that.
The places I've visited, that like the homes that I've visited, you know, on the Dulwich Trail, are, you know, everybody's so welcoming. They really, I think everybody must have tried it out and visited other places and sort of figured out what works, because everybody's so hospitable. And I just think, it's such a nice way to see it. I think the other thing that I found is it's really interesting as a visitor when you have more than one artist in one space, because I think they kind of support, you know, the artists support each other and they kind of give each other a bit of confidence, and
I think that's exactly
sort of,
right.
You know, rapport building and just keeping the momentum high on it as well.
Yeah, I think it probably does give you more confidence if you're showing with a fellow artist, friend, relation. And I think actually for the visitors it can be less intimidating as well, because you're not just going to a space with one type of art or ceramic or jewellery or whatever it may be. You know, there's a range of things to see. And inevitably, where you get clusters of artists, whether they're in the same home or in the same area, you will have more visitors.
Like Sarah Hamilton usually shows with Gabriella Schulman, and she'll have one or two other people as well. And what's really nice is because she's a little bit off the beaten path, that it's worth sort of making that detour off the main road, isn't it?
It is.
You know, it becomes a destination when you've got more than just one artist showing, or, you know, certainly if you can rope your neighbours into it as well, which that often happens, I've seen.
Exactly. And I think also, you know, some artists are by nature very hospitable, and for them it's easier to create a warm, welcoming, you know, almost a party atmosphere in some of the places. And obviously word of mouth, you know, helps there as well. You know, word gets out that there's a warm welcome and tea and cakes on sale, which is always helpful. So
that tea and cake, quite a lot of people are doing that. That's kind of a nice
trail.
little sideline, isn't it, as well?
Absolutely.
So we've talked about tea and cake being a nice draw for visitors, but what else do you think that artists could do to have a better open studio event, you know, experience for themselves?
Sure. I think one key thing in the run-up to the event is for artists to really maximise the way that they reach out to their works, whether that's by email, word of mouth, talking, if they're teachers, talking to the students about what they're doing, just getting the word out there as much as possible. But also hooking up with artists who are geographically close to them so that they can form a little trail of their own.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So
I think the collaborating with the neighbours and artists nearby actually really does make it quite a nice visitor experience, because when the event's so big, I think as like having been a visitor, I've kind of earmarked the ones I'm going to see, and I'll sort of look at like a little small, you know, a microgeography within your map, and think about who I can see within that space. So I think that really helps. But doing that, like you say, before the event when they're marketing online, maybe tagging each other or reposting, because it just keeps the feed interesting as well. And I think it really, the whole marketing, you know, the dependency on the organisers is all a bit of a myth as well, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the visitors are very discerning, and I think that they work hard to work out who they're going to see. And we have a lot of artists showing, and I think a key thing is helping visitors find their way around all these different artists. And it isn't necessarily the case that visitors will only go to artists in a particular area or cluster, although clusters of course do help because you can easily go from one to another. But I think individual artists can help the visitors find them by advertising and marketing themselves in the run-up to the event. Of course, for us, the key marketing tool is our booklet, and we print 20,000 copies of that and distribute it locally, bars, shops, cafes, and further afield as well. So, in other parts of London, but obviously primarily in the areas covered by the event.
And then you have your online presence as well. So you're using Instagram and Facebook, or using Twitter as well?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and the website, of course.
So what do you think artists could be doing to improve their own sort of marketing, let's say, around participating in open studios to get more numbers through their door?
Well, I think we do a lot of that for them, but I think it's really important that they're not totally reliant on us, because the way I see the event is that we've got three really important components to it. We've got the artists themselves individually, we've got the visitors, and then we've got the whole event. And it's really important as organisers we look at that whole picture, which I think is something that is harder for the individual artists to do. Mm-hmm. We're getting the overview of it. And so while we will be highlighting some individual artists that we've maybe seen over the course of a weekend or in the run-up to it, or we've seen their flyers and posts about their artist open house, we see that as promoting, not trying to promote particular artists. It's part of the whole event promotion.
Yeah, I see. And so, I mean, do you have artists that make their own flyers? Because I know when I took part in Dulwich Open House, which I have done, and I took on a pop-up gallery, I actually also had my own flyers printed as well and did a door drop for them. And I know Sarah Hamilton, who we mentioned earlier already, she does one for, the artist showing at her house. And I've certainly been around door dropping with her as well, getting these through neighbours' doors and neighbouring streets. And it does have an impact, as much as we talk about online stuff, the physical flyer advertising studios or galleries or whatever, that you get through the door. Yeah, definitely has an impact.
Absolutely.
Do you get quite a few artists that do that?
We do. And we really, really encourage artists to do that. And that is part of what we help them with. We provide logos and pointers about how they might go about doing that. Mm-hmm. It's important to us that they use the Dulwich Festival logo so that people understand when they come across their flyer that their event is part of the Dulwich Festival and the wider Artists Open House event. I
think that actually it's really necessary, that sort of visual connection people make with the branding as well, yeah.
Absolutely. And the visual branding, the festival logo, we reworked that a few years ago, mm-hmm. and it's been a really important step for us as an organisation, having a really, really strong logo that is recognisable around the area. And I don't know if you will know this, the signpost that we have outside the artists' houses, sponsored by Property Inn, local independent estate agent, have both their logo and our logo on, and it's our logo. It really stands out. They pop up in the weeks before, and I think that's been a really helpful step for us.
No, I think your logo is really recognisable, and just because of the density of numbers you have within your catchment area, you just really know that it's coming up, and it's really exciting to see, as you say. It does feel like the start of spring and that whole open studio season.
With so many artists taking part in the event, one of the big challenges is managing individual artists' expectations, and so many of the artists will be coming at it from different perspectives. Some of them will be professional artists who are very accustomed to opening their studio, and some are people who maybe are coming back to art after an absence of some years, whether that's because they've been working or just had other things that they're doing. And it can be a great way for them to get feedback on their work and think about how they present it, and just have the deadline of preparing an exhibition.
I think it's not always about the sales. I think that's something a lot of the regular artists think about. But as you say, I think getting the feedback on work, on new work, actually also having an occasion to invite people in, because people are more likely to come to an event rather than just look at your gallery online as well, I think.
That's exactly right.
So, that there's many reasons to take part. And I mean, one of the things I say to our artists is, use the occasion if you are thinking about approaching a gallery, well, actually, why not invite them to your open studio? Because it's a much softer way of letting them experience your work rather than just going in with a pitch,
That's exactly right. Exactly. And I think that's one of the really rewarding things about working on an event like this, is seeing the progression of some of the artists, who've taken part for a number of years, and also seeing the opportunities that the event has presented for them going forward. So, like you say, it's not all about sales over that particular weekend. Often people come back to the artist throughout, at another point in the year or next open house. So it's a long-term thing.
It is, yeah. And I think actually that's another thing around the consistency, because if somebody has seen your work last season, then and they did enjoy it, then it's quite likely they are going to come back, next occasion as well. And I think that sort of repeat visitor is always really interesting, because if they haven't already bought, then you're certainly nurturing them to be potential buyers. And if they're enthusiastic about your work, then it makes it easier for them to talk about you to their friends as well. That word of mouth is no joke. That is the biggest and the best referral rather than any retweet.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I've realised over the years as well is that visitors really love that interaction with an artist.
Yeah.
So that the piece of work they're buying, it really has meaning for them. And they're taking home not just a beautiful work, they're also taking home an experience and the memories and feelings they have around that experience. So that relationship that the artist has with a visitor is really important.
Yeah, and so you're saying that sort of one of the ways that artists can really improve their open studio experience is making sure the visitor has a good experience.
I think so.
So Dulwich Festival Artist Open House runs over 2 weekends, and all the artists are open the first weekend, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so do you get to visit all the studios, all the artists?
Well, I'd love to visit all of them, not quite. We do our very best to see as many as possible. I mean, it's a really important part of the whole process for us, either to meet the artist beforehand, see their studio or home at some point, but particularly over those weekends that they're open. We want to see how it's going for them. We're very invested in how it works out. We want to see how the visitors are feeling about the event generally. So it all feeds into that. So there's me, and there's also Liz, who I work with on the organisation of it. There's our designer Mark. Annie, who does our maps. There is a team, and the wider festival as well. Lots of people who are involved in the festival will visit the open houses, as well as all the many other events that are happening over those 2 weekends.
So do you create opportunities for the artists to meet each other as well?
We do.
In the organising?
We do, and we think that's a very important part of the whole process. We very much want the artists to feel that they're part of something, and so we organise a get-together before the booklet comes out. So once all the artists have registered, it's a chance for them to get together, talk to other artists and hosts as well, because of course another section of people that take part are people who are hosting artists
that are not showing their own
work, but actually opening up their homes or spaces for artists, whether they're friends or relations, to show their work. So that's a really nice opportunity for people to get together. It's nice for people to swap their experiences, and also for old friends to meet up, because obviously a lot of artists who show in the area have lived in the area for many years, maybe were at college in the area and have stayed here, and so have lots of connections with the community. And I think that really feeds into the sense of community really that we have here. We're incredibly lucky. It's a really nice, vibrant, creative area, and it's a privilege to be facilitating those people getting together.
For sure.
And then we also organise a launch for the booklet when it comes out. That's usually a sort of coffee and croissant in a big cafe space, Volcano in West Dulwich. So that's an opportunity again for the artists to get together, but also pick up copies of their booklet and get going on the promotion for the event.
Because we don't have an artist meetup so much anymore, but I think that is something we'll probably implement for this coming season, because when the artists sort of know each other, or they have visited each other in the past, but if they're all open at the same time, they don't really get a chance to meet otherwise. So I think we're going to really try and, make something happen before our actual June at Open Studios this year.
Well, I think that's a really important point, because actually one of the things about the event is that a lot of the people that would absolutely love to go and visit Open Studios are artists themselves, and of course they're tied to their own home and studio over
by
the
the
weekend.
beds, aren't they?
Exactly. So although they're very, the individual artists and clusters of artists who are showing, it's great to get feedback about how their particular event is going over the weekend and afterwards. But the key thing that they're missing is they're not getting the overview of all the other houses. So, there's nothing we can do about that.
No, I think it's a really nice idea, actually, because otherwise, artists can be sort of working in isolation. So it's nice to know that there's, other people sort of nearby and things. And I think they just also start making more relevant connections online as well when they then start following each other on Insta and things as well. So we were talking about promotion and marketing of the Artist Open House. And obviously there's a brochure, which is the main thing, which, both our organisations do. And then we have the website, I've seen lots of banners up, which we also do, social media. And so I just wanted to ask what else it is you might be doing to promote the artists. What else do we see or, not know about so much?
Well, the festival as a whole, the Dulwich Festival, has someone who works on press and marketing and who deals with local magazines, newspapers. So that's a really interesting part of the process, actually. It's great to get in touch and work with local papers and magazines who do so much to promote community events like ours. We've also been doing interviews with artists to try and build up a library of interviews that appear on our website and also in the booklet. How does that compare with what you do at Camberwell, Gita?
So we do a bit of PR, but not as much, just because we don't have a dedicated person for it. We put up the event on various sort of listings, sites and things like that. We get some coverage, or sometimes we buy adverts in things like the hyperlocal papers like Dulwich Diverter and Peck and Peculiar. I actually took a lead from you on this for last season, where we gave to the artist the logo that we were using for the event, so that they could brand, any of their materials around that. Another thing two things that we've done have guided walks. So it wasn't so great in the winter because it was so cold, but in the summer we arranged guided walks. So, we met at the station, it was a ticketed event, and then we took visitors around all the different studios. So it was a bit of chaperoning, which was nice, I think, because visitors can be a bit shy or a bit intimidated walking into a studio with huge printing presses. And in the past we've had volunteers do that. So that's nice, and that sort of thing means that we're then able to use Eventbrite. So we're kind of using another events platform where, I think Eventbrite's actually a pretty good platform. And people do find things that are unexpectedly on there. So we did that. And then another thing we did last summer, which was actually really successful, was have a prize. So we encouraged people to enter a prize draw. And there were two prizes. There was a £100 and a £50 voucher to spend at Open Studios. So, so that was kind of it was a different sort of marketing tactic, but I just really wanted to try something else and something a bit more competitive and all of that. And that was great because they were only allowed to spend it on that weekend and only at the Open Studios and stuff like that. So that went down really well. The artists were really happy with that.
That's a great idea. And I love the idea of the guided walks, which again, I think is another way that you can get visitors to, find their way around the event really. And actually like your event, we do see it as a walking tour really, although ours is a bit large maybe to walk across the whole area. Within the postcodes, that is how we organise it in the booklet, so that people can walk from one house to another. And usually that is very possible, and you've got often a number of houses in one street opening up, which is lovely, and actually really fosters that sense of community. And that's one bit of feedback we've had consistently over the years. Actually, is that it's been a great opportunity, obviously on top of the art, but actually just to meet the neighbours and connect up with other people in the area.
Oh, fab. So one of the things that comes up is around the lead time, because we've talked about all the work that's going to go into it. But why does your call out? We're in the middle of January. your call out is about to come to an end, is it, this week?
That's
and the event's not till May. So do you want to talk a bit about the long lead time?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have reduced the lead time actually over the years. And I mean, I guess we could reduce it slightly more. I mean, our information generally goes out in December, which is obviously a very busy month for everybody, but particularly artists with shows and craft markets and all sorts of things. So we really do try and build in quite a lot of flexibility to the deadline. So the deadline is usually January. But what we need to do is we need to get all the information in so that we can really start working on it. Everyone needs a deadline, right? So, but the thing is, it's the booklet. It requires a lot of thought and time. We need to extract the information they send us. Our designer, who is fantastic and works incredibly hard on making it look fabulous, he needs time to do all that. We've got to get the information to him. And we also do edit the entries, actually. So we asked artists to send in a picture, of course, which is key. That's the most important bit, really, I think. But also some words, a bit about their work that they're going to be showing. And we ask for a maximum of 35 words, which is really not very much. But it's difficult for people to keep that word count down. So we need a bit of careful editing as well, which and we have an editor who works on all the entries, just to kind of make sure there's a sort of, bit of a house style, I suppose. Not, we don't want to lose the voice of each individual artist, but we need to clean them up sometimes a bit. So that's really invaluable. But the whole process obviously takes time, and we want it to be right. We print 20,000 copies of the booklet. It's the biggest expense, the printing of it. And despite the fact that obviously everything is moving to phones and internet and computers, the booklet is still really a very, very important part of it for us. And, people really do enjoy it, I think.
And then how many weeks before the event does your brochure actually come out?
So the booklet comes out between about 3.5, 4 weeks before, which is the timing of it is usually that we get onto the distribution just after Easter. It's quite a nice break in the process. And we don't want the booklet out too soon because we don't want it hanging around and starting to look dog-eared. What we want is for there to be a sudden influx of that booklet in the run-up to the event, just to sort of create that excitement. And actually, Liz and I, we do a lot of the distribution ourselves, literally on foot. We don't contract it out to anyone. It's a part of it that, when the weather's good, that we really, really enjoy. But actually, another aspect to it is that it really gives us an opportunity to talk to shop owners, cafes, galleries, all the people that, look forward to having the booklet on their premises. It gives us a chance to have some feedback about what they're doing. Again, it's all about the community.
And it really gets them involved, doesn't it? Even if they're not actually, exhibiting work in their shop or something.
Exactly.
And it still gets them involved in a different way by meeting people. So, what did you say? So it's about sort of 4 to 6 weeks before the event itself that your booklet comes out?
Yeah, so it comes, we try and allow sort of 3 or 4 clear weeks for distribution. And so it comes back from the printer and we start getting it out there about 3.5 weeks before the event itself.
Yeah. So I think last Christmas for ours, we had, print was really brochure looked beautiful, but it was also about 5 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
And it just worked brilliantly because we just had that time without an intense pressure, because the summer before it had come out quite late. And, you sort of almost lose a bit of value when it's too late because you haven't got the time to get it round as many places as you want. So our Christmas event was great because we did have so much time that we were able to get more people to help us in the distribution. We had time to do door drops as well as all the businesses. But then we also covered 5 stations as well, like having, there was one after work sort of session, like a 5:30 to 6:30 kind of time. But sort of rush hour when people were coming home, that we covered 5 stations handing them out.
That was amazing. That's exactly what we do. And it's brilliant because they just go so quickly, and that you're really reaching people that want it.
Yeah.
So it's great. And I think you're absolutely right. It's getting that balance, isn't it, between not getting it out there too soon, not getting it out there too late, maximising, that on that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So do you get to visit other open studios? Like, do you go out of town or, other parts of London and see studios?
Yeah, we do, Geeta. I mean, one of the wonderful things for us and the great privilege of working on an event like this is it's absolutely something that we love to do ourselves. This is an event that we love. So, of course, and, it's not a unique format. Obviously, there are open studios, Camberwell, of course, and across London, but you're absolutely right, outside London too. Cheltenham Open Studios, there's some in Pembrokeshire and Wales, which is a place I know and love. Brighton, of course, is a big one. So yes, we're always on the lookout for an open studios event, and it's fascinating to see. It's fascinating to see it as someone who works on it, but it's just really nice to be a visitor as well. And in fact, a real favourite of mine is the Nunhead Open House, which is a relatively young open house. It's been going for probably about 4 years now, and it's a really nice. It's quite a small trail actually, but it's growing, and it's got a really nice feel to it. And what about you, Geeta? Do you feel the same?
I do. I really love, going around the studios. I'm a bit of a serial hanger-outer at, artist studios, open or not, And that's one of the great things is we get to meet these people that we can kind of go there, when it's not technically open to the public.
Exactly.
But, yeah, my favourite ones are, obviously outside the ones that you and I run, are Brighton. I really like Brighton Open Studios. It's got such a great creative scene down there. And that's a combination of actually purpose-built studio spaces and artists' homes. And the last few years I've been going down to Hastings for theirs as well. And Margate, actually. I went down to the Margate one last summer as well. So they're all coastal. But yeah, it is something I really like doing. I really like sort of seeing how other people are organising themselves. And you just do get that sense of community in these little places as well. I just, because a lot of those ones particularly outside of ours, are organised by the artists themselves. It's a bunch of artists that got together and thought, hey, we should do this thing. And that's what I really like seeing, them trying to, really, get on the map for those things and actually creating an event that's bigger than their studio, but it's becoming about the town or that local community.
But I don't know if you find, like me, I want to see as many as I can, but I always want to get talking to all the artists as well, so end up lingering too long in each place and never seeing enough.
I end up looking at their branding and all the things that, that I could be learning in my organising and, sort of like down in Hastings, I think they had some really nice signage and things. It's like, yeah, that's a great idea. We'll have to see how we can implement that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Rachel, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been really brilliant having a chat with you because it's always great to sort of talk to somebody that's sort of going through the same experience. Why don't you tell us when the dates for the next festival?
Thanks, Geeta. I've really enjoyed our conversation. It's been great to hear more about Camberwell too. And yeah, really looking forward to the festival in May, which runs from the Friday the 11th of May to Sunday the 20th. Like I said, it's the 25th anniversary of the festival this year, so we're really excited about that too. Yeah, and the Artist Open House event runs on the 2 weekends of the festival, 12th, 13th of May and 19th, 20th. So yeah, more information available from March on the Dulwich Festival website, dulwichfestival.co.uk.
Great, and I will add that into the show notes as well. Lovely. Thanks so much, Rachel.
Thanks, Geeta.